And I will take a few minutes to introduce several species that grow along rivers and larger streams and help protect the banks of these waterways from washing away during flood stage. So these are trees that almost exclusively grow on floodplains and really nowhere else, especially the specimen on my right, which is the silver maple, and the specimen on my left is a sycamore tree, which will grow just about anywhere if it's given the chance, but this is where you usually find it. So here's what we got. I'm going to focus on the leaves because they're close to the ground. These trees have been hugging this river bank, and the branches are growing out towards the river and getting lots of sun close to the ground. So here is what's called the silver maple. And the leaves have a similarity to red maple and sugar maple in the actual fact that it's got several large lobes that stem out from the same area. But they are much more deeply furrowed and notched. Furrowed isn't the right word, but notched. And there's notches between the notches. They're very delicate and got just a lot more going on than the red maple or the sugar maple. So easy to distinguish. I've got a couple more right here. Again, between the lobes, there's little lobes between the main lobes. Somewhat similar to the red maple, but really it has a lot more rough edges than the red maple would. And the sugar maple is pretty much a smooth edge with rounded notches. So this is kind of like a cross between sugar maple and red maple. The fact that it does have rounded notches between the main lobes, but rough edges, like the rounded notches would resemble a sugar maple, and the rough edges would resemble a red maple, but in this case it's got both. And the leaves are just much more cut up, if you want, or if you will, than either one of those trees. And the habitat here, you wouldn't find a sugar maple on a floodplain. Red maple, probably not, although they do grow in wetlands. This is a floodplain. It isn't a swamp where it stays wet a lot of the year. This soil is actually very well drained, and it does flood, but once the flood is over, the soil is well drained and actually much easier for a tree to grow in. And on my left here is a sycamore tree with a very large leaf, larger than most leaves in the forest. And that leaf there, I'll put my hand up here, has got to be as big as my hand. It comes to several points and little points in between the points, and really doesn't resemble anything else you're going to find in the area covered by this channel. So that's what we have here, and I'll work on the bark on these trees when I get to some better specimens. The bark is fairly unique, especially the sycamore. It's unmistakable, and the silver maple is pretty unique too in its own way. And I am on the banks of the Mad River at the Eastwood Metro Park, just outside of Dayton, Ohio. And a lot of this land has been protected for flood control, so a good place to go out and find things.